slow it down maybe because it's not that long. How long do you want these?
Perry did one that was like 30 seconds.
All right.
But he was a slow talker. I mean,
Yeah.
you can take your
Yeah, I'll slow it down.
your time. Sorry, 2 seconds.
You're all like, did he just have a stroke?
Yeah, I feel like.
Well, no, because the line wasn't. It was like a run-on sentence. So I was like,
It was like your moment at the talent show. Oh God! Cut the feed. Cut the feed. Okay.
Oh shit! No, I'm smiling too much. Hey guys, Uncle Sam here from This, That, and the Other.
Hi, and welcome to Happy News with Perry Kurtz. I'm Perry Kurtz. I'll be your host. Today we're going to be talking to a friend of mine who I've known for many, many years. He is a comedian, a musician, a husband, and a father of a very young child. Please welcome David Zasloff.
Hi.
Hey, woohoo!
Good to be here.
Well, David, I've known you for I don't know how many years. Do you have any idea how long we've known each other?
Probably 25.
Something like that.
Something,
Yeah,
yeah.
you were 12 when I met you originally.
Yeah.
Now you're
I
15.
just came out and
Oh, you just came out?
Yeah.
Your wife's going to be really upset
She'll
if
be
she
very
hears about
surprised.
that. Yeah, she will. David is a comedian, and he plays all kinds of instruments. Not only does he do comedy shows, but he also does shows where it's just music. And he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. But to get the show started, as it's called, it's called Happy News. So the first article we're going to talk about is there was a young man, a boy in school, who was bullied. Somebody came in, stepped in, and they got him T-shirts. And people went crazy buying them. 16,000 were purchased in a few hours. So many, and the money was going to the boy, to help him with therapy and all that. It crashed the website, showing that people can support those in need. So it shows you, if somebody needs your help, don't be afraid to step up and do the right thing. Speaking of right things, so how's your daughter?
oh, my daughter's great. She's 5.5 now. We're getting ready for her next birthday party.
Wow.
Gonna be 6 years old. I'm sure you'll come.
Yes.
Last year we had 2 unicorns, and we had a bouncy house and a face paint. We had 40 kids here running around the house.
Oh, horrible.
It was beautiful. No, it was beautiful. It was a lot of good energy, a lot of beautiful little kids running around. It's nothing better. And it's amazing that I'm saying that because I used to hate kids. And,
Right.
I hated them till I had one. And then when you have one, holy mackerel.
Exactly. Now, I think we should clarify. David is a little over 40 years old now. How old are you?
75.
75,
Wow.
and he has a child that's about to be 6 years old.
Yeah.
So miracles do happen.
Well, can I
if
ask,
you're in love that much.
as the background guy, the background producer?
Sure.
When you were younger, did you wanted to wait this long?
No, I was doing drugs, and I had abortions. I went through several abortions. I never wanted the abortions. It was always the woman who wanted it because I wasn't very trustworthy. And time passed, and I finally met someone who was really good for me because I only used to date women who were bad for me. Women who wanted to kill me. I love you. You want to kill me? Then let's move into my house and let me make it easier for you to hurt me. I always had the kind of love that can only be stopped by a restraining order.
That's the best
And
kind.
and I finally found someone who just loved me for who I was, and I started learning about love. It took a long time to understand what love was because I never knew from where I came from and from the women I was with. I had no idea. Now that I have a wonderful wife and I have a beautiful kid who teaches me more about love than I could ever imagine.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I've become a fan of love.
And his wife is what, half your age?
No, she's less than that.
Less than half your age.
I'm 36 years.
That's
I'm
right.
12 years older than my mother-in-law.
That's the right answer.
See?
Well, did you have a pretty supportive family growing up?
No, I had a very unsupportive family. a lot of judgment, a lot of negativity, a lot of you're not good enough. No, nothing.
No
nothing.
T-shirts.
I had to run away. at a young age. I found Vermont when I was 16, and I became a ski instructor. One of the first Jewish ski instructors in Vermont.
Wow.
When I was 16, 17, something like that.
I don't think there's any now. I think you have to be German to do that.
They were all German back then. Now the Jews own the ski slopes.
Right.
They bought it. I'm serious. It was
Right.
never that way. When they found out I was Jewish that many years ago, they didn't want to ski with me anymore.
I know what you mean. I did a prison once, and a guy yells, "Look, it's a Jew." I said, "Jews don't go to prison. We own them. Sit down, or you go back to your cell."
I was living in rural Oregon, and I never told anyone I was Jewish because they hated Jews.
Of course.
And I finally, after I knew one of the guys for 2 years, my neighbor, I told him I was Jewish, and he said, "Show me your horns."
Right.
And I didn't even know the Jews were supposed to have horns.
Yep. I learned that when we lived in South Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
And a guy came up and was looking at the top of my head. He says, "I don't see no horns." I said, "Oh, we shaved them off in the 1200s.
Right.
And he goes, "When was that?"
It was some sculptor did a thing of Moses. There was a sculpture of Moses, and he had horns.
Really?
That's how I think that's one of the reasons why that started. I'm sure there's something in the Bible somewhere, which I've never really read, that's what a good Jew that I am, that there's Jews have horns. But there was a sculpture of Moses with horns.
Wow.
And the people in Oregon had never met a Jew.
No.
So when I told them, what do you know about Jews? You never met one. He said, he was flabbergasted. He wanted to believe that I wasn't Jewish because he liked me. And since he liked me and I was Jewish, it really screwed him up.
You couldn't be a member of the group that we don't like.
Really, he did not like that. Because then he might have to like more Jews, and that would just against his basic philosophy, which started on the basis of a lie. So
Of course.
So he was just an idiot, really.
Well, don't go play in Hayden Lake next time you go up to Oregon.
Oregon?
Yeah.
Hayden Lake?
Hayden Lake. That's where all the Nazis are.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's where David Duke actually lived. I was up there touring with a black comic, and we got lost. He said, "We should ask for help." I said, "No, because then they're going to find our skins hanging from a tree."
Right, yeah. Once you get... Eugene, Oregon is a very liberal town.
Yeah.
Beautiful town, a lot of intelligence, a lot of culture. But you go 4 miles.
Outside,
5 miles, and you are in a whole other world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
didn't know
scary
that.
out there.
And
But
that's
you didn't grow up in Oregon, right?
No, I grew up in the Bronx.
The Bronx, New York.
Yeah, that's accounts
Can't
for
tell
my...
by his New York accent?
Well, I'm just setting them up so you can spike them, Perry.
Oh, all right. There we go.
They hated Jews in the Bronx. When I grew up, it was the Irish against the Jews. I was 5 years old. This Irish kid yelled at me for being Jewish, and I didn't even know I was Jewish. And then he yelled at me for killing Christ. And I said, "Christ? I don't know anything about Christ except whoever he is. He was causing me a lot of trouble." So it was like, what's going on? So it was the beginning of my not wanting to be Jewish because I wanted to be liked.
I went through the same thing in Philadelphia. I actually went to church with my neighbors for 4 years. And
Oh, that's
there
terrible.
were no Jews.
That's terrible.
Yeah, there were no Jews within like 12 blocks of my house.
Wow.
So I grew up
What
to
city?
Philadelphia.
There's lots of Jews in Philadelphia.
Well, there is now.
Oh.
But in the section I was in, it was very Gentile, which means non-Jewish.
Goyim.
And I used to get beat up by a gang because I was a Jew.
Right.
And they thought we had money, and we had the oldest car on the street.
Right. Yeah, the whole money thing and the Jewish thing is so wrong.
Yeah.
It is so wrong. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of Jews that have a lot of money, but a lot don't.
No.
I'm one of them. Right.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
Right, like we run the world, you know?
Yeah, right.
What a myth.
Did a lot of that conflict kind of at the beginning, did that fuel your comedy and your music? Or I guess
Only later, because my comedy came later in life. The first thing that came was music. I wrote my first song when I was 4.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you remember the song at this point?
I remember the picture of the song I was playing. I'm serious. You don't forget that stuff.
I remember the picture,
I remember
but not
the
song.
picture of the song. The picture in my head. I was 4 years old. I was playing my mom's guitar, 1 string. That's all I could play was 1 string. I was making a dobro out of it with my somehow, and I was singing a song about a cowboy riding on the horse, sunset with a big hat, and he's riding off into the sunset. And I remember that picture as clear as day. And then I remember my mom walking through the living room looking at me and going, what? What?
Wow.
So I started writing songs really young.
And did you record it on a wax cylinder? Because it was that long ago.
No, I wasn't into recording. No, we didn't have any recording. No, we didn't do that.
How many songs do you think you've written in your life? Round,
oh my God,
just an estimate. Because I know you got a lot of songs.
When I was living on the streets as a musician, I used to live on the streets in Seattle in the winter and the rain. I used to go to there was two lesbians that owned a restaurant, and I could go up and play for food and play for tips. And I didn't know many songs, so I would sit there for 3 hours and invent one song after the next. Just ad-lib one song. I would play some riffs on the guitar and then just start making up words. And you know what that's about.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't do it about necessarily what was happening right in front of me. I would create entire stories
in your head,
in my head, that would just come out. And of course I was stoned. I mean, that might have helped.
Surprise.
I'm not sure. But and then people would ask me, "Where'd you learn that word? Where'd you learn that song?" I would never tell people that I made it up. And then I would switch to the piano, and I'd make up another song on the piano, because it's all comes from the same source. It doesn't matter what instrument you're playing; it's all coming from the same place. And as long as I tapped into that place, so when I was in that situation, I probably wrote 30 songs a day.
Wow.
Easily. And then I would go play on the streets, just make up songs.
How old were you when you were on the streets?
This is the sad part. I was 34 years old, unemployed, living on the streets of Seattle in the winter and the rain. 34 years old.
And it gets cold up there.
It's wet.
Cold.
It's wet.
And the rain is almost freezing, but it doesn't, because it's right next to the ocean.
And I had holes in my shoes because I didn't have good shoes. So when I was walking around, so my feet were always wet. It was not, and I wanted to live on the streets. I went from the penthouse. I was living in a penthouse with my second wife, and something was wrong I felt like something was wrong. And we separated. She had some money left. She went to a nice place, and I had nothing. So when the rent ran out for that month, I took the elevator down with my auto harp and my trumpet and 3 pairs of underwear and the clothes I had on me, and I started living the life of a street musician. And I didn't have a clue what to do.
You've never done that before.
So all I could do, I didn't know any songs, so I just stand on the corner and make up songs.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wow.
What did your family say when you, not during that period, but
They never knew.
When you were younger, as far as music was concerned? Like, were they like, you need to be a lawyer?
Did they appreciate
Doctor.
your musical ability, or did they try to?
My mother knew I was talented, and when I was 11, she said to my dad, who didn't care about my talent at all.
Really?
She said to him, "Go put pictures of musical instruments on the wall. Let him pick one, and go get it." So I pointed to a trumpet, and my dad went to a hock shop and got a bugle.
Wow.
Because he wasn't going to front a trumpet.
No, they're much more. They got moving parts.
Right. So he came back with a bugle, and I blew it right away. I could play that bugle immediately, and I became the bugler of the jazz bugler of the Boy Scouts. There's a bugle over there. I could play that in the right. Look up right there in that shelf, a little higher, right there. I think your hand is on it. There's a bugle there.
Wow.
Is that a bugle? What's that? Right behind there, there's a bugle. Somewhere.
Can you play a heating pad?
Huh?
Can you play a heating pad?
No, it's a bugle case.
Oh, yes, I see it. Right
Yeah.
He's young. He doesn't know.
The chips, right? The bugle chips?
I became the jazz bugler. Give me that thing.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Should I play it right now?
Why not?
All right.
Squawk out a couple
Oh, hang on for a minute. Hang on.
He's got stuff stashed everywhere in this. We are in his converted garage, where he spends most of his awake time when he's not playing with his daughter or his wife.
this is without any warm-up, right? This is unrehearsed.
You don't have to flex your lips up or anything like that? Unbelievable.
All right.
I haven't played in years. That's been sitting back there.
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
the redness of your face works really well with you.
If I wish I had a bugler when I was in Boy Scouts like that. I'd be right at morning attention, ready to go. Every
I
time.
remember trying to play one. I could never get it.
Yeah, well, I pick up instruments and play them.
And you were about 4 years old?
Huh?
You were about 4 when you picked up the bugle?
No. That came when I was around 11.
Oh, he was old then.
11. I was. Yeah, you don't get to blow like my daughter can blow. My daughter was blowing the trumpet at 3. She would come in here and I'd have this out, and she would I'd hold it for her, and she would blow it and get a note, and she would go, whoa, And I said, oh my God, she's got some chops.
Got big lungs. You got to have big
chops.
lungs.
It is transferable.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
What's a couple of good things that you remember from back in the days before the homeless portion of it? I guess some brighter spots.
I think some of the greatest things were when I was skiing. Some of the mornings when I could get to ski alone, and I'd be by myself on top of Killington Mountain, and just come down at 30, 35 miles an hour and do these really wide turns and a beautiful sunset and fresh snow, and I was 18 years old. It just felt like, oh my God, this is just unbelievable freedom.
Do you get to go back to Oregon a lot to visit?
I'd like to. I'm hoping to get back and do some gigs there. I've gone back and done some gigs, and that's been great.
When you were instructor there, were you popular?
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
Got a real silver fox thing going on around. So
I had brown hair. I was a brown fox back then.
I imagine.
I didn't know what fox meant back then. It was just the way it was.
Coming from New York, slick talking, good looking brown hair,
and
tall guy.
all the women from all the girls' schools, Barnard, I think it was, and there was another classic all girls schools that's now co-ed, and we had the vehicle. We drove them up to the ski lodges. Was a 1957 Cadillac hearse.
Oh, wow. Talk about a classic ride. Wow.
I remember driving the hearse up in Vermont on a narrow road, icy road, couldn't see because it was sleeting or hailing. I rolled the window down, and I'm looking out the window, and then the roof of the hearse, of the Cadillac, flies up and smashes into the hood, right? So I put my ski goggles on, so I could look out the window and drive at the same time. It was hysterical.
Wow.
And the girls was Bennington. That was this. Bennington College, all girls school.
So the
them
hood
pizza and
over the
French fries.
engine just lifted up.
The engine, I don't know why, it just flew up at about 40, 50 miles an hour.
That's annoying. I had that happen to me once. Very frightening.
And it's a 57 Cadillac hearse.
That's
that was made out of metal. That wasn't plastic or fiberglass. So when that hit the roof, oh boy.
That was a couple 100 pounds easily.
Heavy thing. Big springs.
Did the girls all scream?
They were all screaming. Then the car went spinning on an ice. Oh, it was just too funny.
You
Not funny. Though.
You must take hours to calm them down.
No, fortunately, the ski lodge was about a mile away.
Oh.
So we were lucky.
I see what you're saying, though, Barry. A little arms around the shoulder, a little don't worry, the snow patrol's coming.
I wasn't that hip.
A little pizza French fries motion. Well, let me move the trains along right now while Perry checks out the next Happy News article. I'll go ahead and read it out to you guys.
Yeah.
So that way Perry can read.
Yeah.
Denmark bought the country's last remaining circus elephants for $1.6 million so that they can retire the elephants in peace.
Yes, they are no longer using elephants in circuses because of animal cruelty. And so this was the last one. Denmark bought it for over $1 million. That way they can continue to abuse it for their own financial
Perry.
improvement, whatever.
So coming
But
back to when you
They're
were
going
penniless.
to. I think it's great that they're doing this. They're doing this with almost all the circus animals. They're slowly taking them out of the circus because they're finding out even the lions and tigers and bears. They're all.
I don't like zoos. I don't like.
Well, yeah, I'm the same way.
I'm uncomfortable watching animals paced and not have the freedom to.
They're
live
not
their
happy.
lives. No,
I mean,
no.
look at guys in jail. They're not happy either, but they should be in jail. These animals didn't do anything wrong,
No.
but now this will be the last elephant in captivity. Which is great. In Los Angeles, I think it was back in March, they passed along that there can no longer be bull riding in Los Angeles because of the physical abuse. But there will still be bullshitting because it is Los Angeles.
Of course.
That's not going to stop at all.
And you don't need a saddle for bullshitting.
That's right.
Or
And
for
people
bullshit.
people are still making a great living doing that.
Right.
But with the subject being wild animals being released out of captivity, when did you get off the streets? How long were you out there during that period?
I was
that
on the
middle part of
streets
your
for
life?
9 or 10 months, and then I found an open mic, and I went and played at an open mic at a restaurant called Matzo Mama's, and and the guy liked what I did. I played some nice stuff, and we talked. He didn't know I was on the streets. I came back the next week, and he liked the stuff again, and he said he wanted me to be his musical director, and would I take the
Wow.
job? And I said yes, and we talked, and he offered me $1 a day and a bowl of soup. I was 35 years old, and to me that was a raise. From where I was living, that was a good gig.
$1 a day and a
$1 a day and a bowl of soup.
Wow.
It was a raise. And I took the gig, and then he said to me that if I brought in money, new money, he would give me money. And that's what happened. I booked it. I wrote the press releases. I emceed. I played the piano. I played flute. I played trumpet. I booked comedy. I booked all these great musicians that I knew. And when I started booking it, every musician in town wanted to come play.
Of course
that
they
place.
did.
And the way to create success was, my first question was, I know you're good. Do you have a following?
Same thing now.
If they had a following.
How many Twitter followers do you have?
Right, same thing. We made a lot of money. This is, I guess, in the 80s or late 70s. I was making $2 to $3 grand a week.
Oh my God!
We made money. It was so successful.
That would be like $8 grand a week
It was
now.
phenomenal, and of course, there was a lot of drugs. You know.
Really, I'm surprised to hear that.
No, don't be surprised.
In the music industry, that there were drugs. That's so unusual.
No, the 80s.
Was there any alcohol?
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
What
yeah.
happened before the penthouse period?
Oh boy.
Now that was your second wife.
Uh,
Well, you want to talk about?
That was when the elephants were still caged, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Do you want to talk about any of your previous wives, or you want to gloss over
I could
that?
talk about. I was living in rural Oregon, Veneta, Oregon, when I lost my doctorate, my grant money to the University of Oregon as a counseling psychologist, because I spent all my time skiing in whitewater, running whitewater.
Of course.
Whitewater River
Why
guy.
not?
And they took my grant away, which is cool. And then I started doing stained glass. I became a stained glass maker. Went to the dump, and I got some used windows, used glass. I got some scraps of stained glass. I read a book.
All right. Well, let's get that on.
Oh.
Play that while it's rolling.
Oh, okay.
Stop. Oh, we're still. Never mind.
I built the windows, and I went to the local art gallery, Maud Kearns Art Gallery in Eugene, Oregon. Showed him to the director, and he hired me to be a stained glass instructor.
Wow. Just off of that piece.
Just off of these two windows.
Never even heard of anybody teaching stained glass. I've heard of people doing it, but I've never heard of instructing.
And then
on that.
I did it for years. I built the biggest stained glass window in one piece ever built. It's 10 foot by 6 foot. Usually when you build a window that's 10 foot by 6 foot, you build it in sections.
Right.
I did one piece. It's one huge piece that's supported by a handmade cast iron frame that was custom made to fit the window. It's on my phone. I can show you the picture later. And that got installed at a beautiful mall building in Eugene, Oregon.
Wow. And with all you've done, it's amazing that your office doesn't have a second floor.
It's coming.
He's working on
My
it.
wife's working on it. That's what I was doing before, and then before that, I was living in the woods of Alaska for a summer shooting my food.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah,
Ask him about that.
Yeah, what is Alaska like in the
a
summer?
lot of mosquitoes.
So it's warm up there.
It's warm. The summer I was there, it was very rainy. We had like maybe 4 days of where it didn't rain part of the day, and the sun doesn't set. The sun goes.
Right.
The sun goes. It's gonna go down, and then whoops, it doesn't go back this way, and then it goes back that way. But it's never dark. It's sort of light, so you could see the moose at night. It was really cool. That's where I learned about moose burgers and moose turd jewelry. You know,
Moose turd jewelry.
yeah, the people would collect moose turds and then shellac them and paint faces on them and then sell them to the tourists. And there's somebody doing it now. I just saw, there was an article about a few months ago. I saw somebody still doing that. They're scrounging the woods for moose shit, and they're making jewelry out of it, and people drive the Alcan Highway and buy it.
If anybody knows of anybody that is making moose turd jewelry, please get him in touch with us. We would love to get one of those products and put
Have
that
a pro
on the air.
hand.
So I lived in the woods, and I ate chipmunks, I ate seagulls, I ate rabbits.
Wait a minute. You caught chipmunks? You
I
were just-
shot them.
Oh, I
Out of
mean,
gun.
still leaving that.
Yeah.
Was it like I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail this. You were in a tent or like what was the thing?
I had a tent. Yeah, we had a
You
tent.
absolute badass. Really? How long were you there?
For the summer, for 4 months of the summertime.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
That's so
hitchhiked
cool.
up. When the Alcan was dirt, now it's paved. The Alcan is the highway that goes up from Oregon up to Alaska. Now it used to be pebbles and rocks and shit. Now it's concrete, from what I understand.
Wow.
People used to drive up. They have to put a screen mesh across the windshield because cars would kick up pebbles and crack the windshields.
Wow.
So then they would cut a little hole where the driver would look through this little hole. Otherwise, you're driving 8 hours looking through all these little crosses. Drive you crazy.
And you just
Crazy.
did that because you wanted to?
Yeah, I wanted to. I've been a whitewater river guide and a mountain guide and all that stuff, and I wanted a real wilderness experience. So I got a gun, and I hitchhiked a ride. I got in the car, and this guy was going back from the University of Oregon. He's going back home to Anchorage, and after a while we were talking, and he said, "What are you going to do?" And I told him what I was going to do. He said, "Are you crazy?" And he said,
Yes.
he said, "Show you have a gun?" And I showed him my .22, and he said, when we got to Anchorage, he gave me a 30-06 because I had no idea that I needed to protect myself from animals. I never saw myself as being lunch, you know. I know that I could be eaten by another animal. So he loaned me a 30-06. So when I was in the woods, I had a gun to protect myself. And when I
Wow.
came out of the woods, I gave him the gun back.
That's so cool. That's
Well-
very for me. That's really really cool.
That's definitely a change of lifestyle.
That's definitely leaving the elephants out the cage.
Probably one of the best things I've ever done.
Do you
I was
think
20. I was 25.
do you think that it created any different ways of thinking for you?
Absolutely.
Because now you were completely living on your wits in there. How did that make you a better person? What do you think you got out of that? Besides you learned to shoot.
Well, that's a very important thing. The gun, I learned that right away. The gun didn't shoot straight. I learned that when I aimed the gun, I had to aim a little to the left
Yeah.
if I was going to hit. But I got so good at shooting. I shot a duck while it was flying. No, a seagull. It was a seagull. I shot a seagull, which you're not supposed to shoot. I shot a seagull. I shot a seagull
Statute of
while
limitations
it
is
was
over.
flying.
Wow.
With a
Was it
22.
overhead or was it there?
It was overhead with its mate, with another seagull. It's a long. The story is
Wow.
the seagull, the seagull dropped dead, and then the other one started dive bombing me with his shit. You know, and it's in the middle of the wilderness, I got
Jeez.
this bird flying after me, so I go run and I hide in the woods because we were by a river, and I'm hiding in the woods, and the seagull's flying over me, trying to find me, and then it finally leaves, and I clean the other birds, and I put it in I had a hunting raincoat. I put it in my pocket. There's not much meat on a seagull. And then the seagull flies away, but then it comes back with all of its buddies.
Oh,
And
my
They're
God.
all flying overhead. Quack, quack, quack. And I'm going, wow.
This is it.
I had to hide in the woods until they left.
Wow.
It's terrifying. Terrifying.
That's awesome.
And then that flock of seagulls went off to become a band.
There
Right.
you go. No, I personally like that just because you coming out of the woods, facing everything else is kind of easy. Like, you know, normal everyday kind of things after you've eaten seagulls and chipmunks.
Totally different. Totally. The biggest thing I learned was I shot a porcupine when I was about a week and a half in the woods, and it dropped
Jeez.
dead. And I saw its spirit leave its body. And I had never didn't believe in that, but it was clear to me that it's...
What did it look like?
It was the mist. This mist came out of its body and floated up in the air and then disappeared back in the air. And that's when I realized that air is made of spirits, that there's spirits in the air, that there's a vibe coming out of us and out of animals that doesn't die. That vibe, it doesn't have a name. It's not David. It's not Perry. But it's a vibe that is somehow attached to us. That this goes back in the air, and where it goes or how if it stays together, I don't know.
Well, they say it's a form of energy, and energy
Right, it's all
cannot be
energy.
destroyed.
Right.
It lives forever.
I kind of see it as a vibe that, you know, for me, because my vibe kind of bounces. You know, it's funny and it's musical, and my daughter's the same way. I see that. My wife,
Right.
you know, it's very. But I believe, and Indians, I learned later that when they shot an animal, they always said a prayer to the spirit of the animal, thanking it for the meat. And when they cut down a tree, they said a spirit to the tree, thanking the spirit for the woods, so they would build a canoe or whatever they would build. So we just don't see spirits because we're too busy on our phones or TV or...
And a lot of people don't believe it. I've actually met people and seen auras.
Oh, yeah.
And it started about 6 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And I was talking to a friend back in Philly who's into that.
Yeah.
And I was talking to her about some of our friends, and I described, she goes, oh, yeah, I've seen that before. And I went, so I'm not crazy?
No.
She goes, no, it's just you're at a point where your brain is becoming more sensitive. I think that the more knowledge we have, the better our brain functions. People go, well, I got too much thoughts, too many things in my... No, it doesn't
That's
work like
bullshit.
that. Right.
But, you know, people say that to me when I tell them about meditation. Oh, I can't meditate. I have too many thoughts. Well, that's the idea of meditation. It's to not have all those, not deal with all that crap in the head.
Right.
It's all negative shit. So much negative. A little of it is positive.
Yeah.
I mean, the world is living off all this negative energy right now, especially right now. And if more people meditated and could just see through the shit, their own shit, and all these kids that get a gun and kill people, you know, it's all that negative stuff. They don't know how to get rid of the negative thinking.
And the shooting is every day now.
Every day. And it's worse because the leaders of the country are promoting that kind of negativity.
They're breeding hate and discontent, and everybody doesn't like anybody who doesn't look like them.
Right.
Well, when you got done living in the outback of Alaska, what was your next step?
I got back to Oregon. I got back into the counseling program, and then I realized that wasn't going to work, and that's when I started doing stained glass. And so I went to Alaska first and started doing that, and then I got married, and that didn't work, and
And then the stained glass, that was after the penthouse, right?
that was before the penthouse.
So what's the rise to the penthouse?
The rise to the penthouse was I stopped doing stained glass. I sold all my tools. At the age of 32, I had a retirement sale.
Because you were that successful.
Yeah, well, not really.
He thought he was.
I just was selling all my tools and all my stuff.
Mhm.
I was, you know, I got through wanting to kill myself because of the divorce. My wife called me. She said, "David, I'm pregnant. I'm getting an abortion. I want a divorce." And that was suicidal for me.
Yeah.
That led to taking drugs because drugs stopped the negative thinking. And then that's when I
So
decided.
they basically stopped the thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And you were too dull to think about it.
And then I wanted to. I said to myself, "What was I doing when I was 4 years old that made me happy?" I was writing songs.
Oh.
So at the age of 34, I decided to be a musician. And I didn't know where to start because I played so many instruments, and someone said go to an astrologist, which I didn't believe in. So I went, and she said, "Oh my God, you're a triple Leo. Do you have any questions?" I said, "Yeah. What instrument should I play?" She looked at my chart and she said, "Play them all, and write about them." So that's what I've been doing.
And he does play them all.
Yeah.
What instrument don't you play? Is there any?
I play them all. I just had to select a few to specialize on so I wouldn't get so scattered.
Right.
So I play, trumpet, percussion, piano, strings, Japanese flute, shofar. I
Very
play some
cool.
odd stuff.
Japanese flute. Nice.
Shakuhachi.
Nice.
Yeah, I got to study with a sensei for 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. You learned all of that in that period after the penthouse or before the penthouse?
I learned that down here in California. This is something you've probably never seen.
I guarantee I haven't.
This is
Wow.
Japanese music. Most people haven't seen this. It starts over here, and it goes down this way, and then this way, like Hebrew.
You can read it?
Huh?
You can read it?
Not so much anymore. I could read it years ago. I've pretty much stopped playing. This is called Hanyoko, and I've pretty much stopped practicing this. But I used to play duets with my teacher, and he got me a gig playing for the Japanese pavilion at the La Brea Tar Pits. When that building opened, they called him to play, and he asked me to go play with him. And
Really?
we played the opening for that, and we played stuff like this. This piece is about a half hour.
Wow.
Jeez.
And
And
there's some funny symbols on here. And one day, I didn't know what a symbol meant. I can show you one.
And that's called Hanyoko.
Hanyoko.
That
Nice
sounds like something that
pronunciation,
John
Perry.
Lennon wrote.
Hanyoko.
All your weird Japanese fetishes are paying off.
Wow.
I tell you, I guess before we go into the sort of the now, as in kind of where you are right now, what's some of your favorite moments from that middle part after the penthouse? As far as the come up, fighting your way back.
What year was the exit from the penthouse?
Wolf. Must have been in
That's
the
a better question.
80s. In the 80s somewhere. Because I've been in L.A. for over 30 years. So it's got to be somewhere in the 80s. It's hard to believe. It's hard for me to realize I'm 75. It just
You don't look it.
doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
You look like you're keeping really good health.
I have the bank account of a 12-year-old.
Hey, welcome to the
Tell
show.
'em.
I know
You
that
and me
one.
both, buddy. Well, I've been trying to send you this last one, Perry, and I'm just gonna read it out to you, and you're
Okay.
just gonna wing it from there, okay?
I'm going to wing this.
So, last piece of good news right here, fellas. Dad develops a new treatment for peanut allergies with almost no side effects after his son suffers a severe reaction. So what that means is there is a plausible treatment for peanut reactions.
So a lot of people suffer from an allergy to peanuts. And because of that, the airline industry no longer serves peanuts on
Is that really
the plane.
why?
Yes.
I'm not surprised.
I thought that was just
No,
cutbacks.
they
I thought
admitted that it was
being cheap.
because, no, they said that there were so many people, and they said it was something like 12% of the people that fly were allergic to it, but they didn't know what it was.
Well, when that happens, people die immediately.
Really?
That's quick for some people. They have a peanut and they're gone.
I wonder if my ex-wife is allergic to peanuts.
Stop wishing.
Yeah.
Careful, this is all recorded.
So yeah, they took that off the market. So, and I have heard people on the plane because I flew to Philly and it was 2 flights out and 1 back, and I heard people talking about how upset they were that they missed the peanuts.
Yeah.
And now they give you almonds
Pretzels.
and pretzels.
Yeah.
Horrible pretzels.
Or the really crappy health food bars that aren't healthy.
Right. Yeah, because they're held together with sugar and
Right.
glue.
A lot of sugar.
So with the news that there might be a cure for peanut allergies, and now that you're a father
That's amazing.
of a young daughter, how does that? Have you had
Doesn't
to deal
affect
with
me
any
at all.
allergies? Or?
Doesn't. I'm glad the cure is there. That's a miracle. I had a friend of mine who was really allergic, and it was very dangerous for him. I remember how horrible
Yeah.
it was. So I had a lot of feelings and compassion for him. But my daughter, she eats everything. She
Yeah.
except Brussels sprouts. That's not
Oh,
gonna
that's
happen.
great. Does she have salads?
Not yet.
Yeah, I can't get my daughter to have salads.
She's Cuban. My wife. When I met my wife, she's Cuban, which is Spanish for jealous, by the way. My wife had never had a vegetable.
I believe that.
She ate rice,
Oh.
beans, and pork.
Yep.
That's it.
That's as Cuban
And
as
she
it
would
gets.
see a vegetable. What is that? Now she eats vegetables.
Yeah.
And she's also in therapy, and I love pork.
Well,
And
me
hopefully there's a
too.
correlation between the two.
Yeah.
Did your diet change moving to Hollywood?
My diet changed when I learned I had to eat properly. So now I eat a lot of vegetables, tons of vegetables. So I just stay really healthy. There was a time when I was completely unhealthy. Now I really enjoy being healthy. And I notice as I get older, the only thing I notice about getting older is if I get hurt, it lasts longer.
Yes. You don't heal as quickly.
I heal, but not as quickly.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like I banged my shin.
Well, you've had everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm amazed you're alive.
Well, and I live on nothing but artificial colorings and preservatives. Everything comes out of the freezer. My doctor actually believes that my body has found a way to assimilate the artificial colorings and preservatives to keep me alive, because internally, except for one issue, I'm healthy. My heart, my blood pressure is like 106.
I think you need to
60.
change doctors.
Yeah, it sounds like you're
I just
going
got a new one.
Get a new
sounds
one.
like you're going to Dr. Hill.
This guy's not thinking right.
Yeah.
Well, I
'cause it
just
doesn't
got
sound-
just got all my
Sounds
blood
like he
tests.
has
Everything
stock in
looks good.
goldfish stock.
Right.
Yep.
But that's a good point. Is that what you do to stay so young? Just being as close as you are to 70 or 72.
He's also very active, and that's a key.
I think music is important
Yeah.
and laughter is critical.
Yep.
With those things, and staying out of negative thinking is the most important thing in my life.
Bingo, because that'll bog you down.
It comes up immediately, and I have to recognize it and reverse it, or just go do something positive. Kiss my wife, say something nice, go help somebody else. That's an amazing thing to do. Just be of service to somebody else for no money. A real true act of compassion for somebody else, and just stay out of the negative thinking, because that will kill me.
Yeah, my daughter gets into that loop, and I taught her when she's feeling negative and she's feeling depressed, sit and look at the outside world and analyze everything that's going on. Where's that guy going? What do you think he has in that bag? Look in people's windows. Oh, they're watching a certain show. Get involved outside of yourself.
Right.
That's why people get these giant TVs, so they don't have to think.
That's a problem. To solve negative thinking with a TV is a mistake.
Yeah, because the TV is all
TV is a
negativity.
piece of shit.
Yeah.
And so is the phone. All that piece of shit. The way to get out of negativity correctly, or the best way, is to meditate. That is the best way. Or just somehow get in the moment. Do something.
Or read a book, and then your
A
eyes
book is
move,
good.
which they're not just going like this.
Right.
You're looking. People
Reading
don't read
is-
books anymore.
That's a good thing.
Other than a cure for peanut allergies, what's the most amazing
oh,
invention you've seen?
Oh,
in
you
the
said
past,
peanut.
like-
I thought you said
Not
penis
allergies.
Because I know you're not
'Cause
allergic.
you don't have those.
You're not allergic to
Ah.
those.
Read this guy. What's the most amazing thing to you in the past 30 years, invention-wise, other than the phone, I guess, and just the development of internet? Like,
That's not so impressive to me. The thing that's most impressive to me is when people develop their minds and can transcend negative thinking, and what can be created out of that. I think the invention of the car was. Look what the car does. It's so polluting. It's so destructive. It's necessary because we're overpopulated.
yeah.
The planet is way overpopulated.
And now drivers are putting on autopilot, and they're going to sleep.
That
There was a guy
autopilot
driving
will,
a Tesla, and somebody called up and said he's driving at 65, and he's sleeping slumped over his own lap.
It's a concern.
We'll get there to that point, though. I
Yeah,
mean, in
that will
20 years,
happen.
you'll have an AI grid system that will have your car taking you throughout the city.
There's
of
a lot of
information.
opposite thinking on that it may not be the best thing.
I certainly don't want to be in the first 10 years of that.
No,
Yeah, no, thank you. But I will.
Wherever those cars are, I'm staying away.
I don't want to be
Might
around
buy a
one.
garage shop though for all the broken cars.
I
and
wouldn't.
all
I wouldn't want to try to fly to Europe on the Wright brothers plane.
that. Exactly. Those first 10 seconds, I tell you, woo.
Forget it.
But I guess other like flex tape or something like that, like things like that aren't kind of like. Because I'm just thinking when I'm in that age, as you fine, well-aged gentlemen are, I imagine the technology that I'm going to see pass by, the computers, MPCs to make music.
People
can
will be
produce and make their
flying
own
there.
There's
music on the computer.
there's something that I'm impressed with on the computer. Very simple cut and paste. It's fucking amazing to me that you could cut and paste. That's unbelievable.
Control C and Control V. That's what you use.
But I do not write on the computer. I will not create. I write with my opposite hand. I've taught my opposite hand to write
Really?
Why is that?
because my left hand is connected to a different part of my brain. My right hand can write really fast. It can keep up with the bullshit in my head. My left hand is so slow. The first time I tried writing with my left hand, I had a gig and I was scared about the gig. And I had a few hours before the gig, and I sat in my hotel room and I put the pen in my left hand and I was going to write the whole script with my left hand to embed it in my brain. And I put the pen in my hand, and the first thing my left hand wrote was, "Hi, David, how have you been?" It was like, it was talking to me from a totally different space than my right hand. Same with drumming. Same thing. When my right hand would always try and start the drum beat, one day my left hand said, "Hey, I want to whack at this." So I let my left hand, the right hand didn't want that to happen, but the left hand started a drum beat, and it came out totally slower, sexier, groovier, and then the right hand just kind of chipped in.
Totally different point of view.
Totally different point of view. Same thing with jerking off. Absolute jerk off.
You're right. I broke my hand like 3 months ago. My righty. Yeah, there's a whole different stranger when you're dealing with your left hand.
Try with your right. My left hand wants me to. My right hand just wants to get it done. Boom, over. My left hand wants me to enjoy every stroke. My left hand would light candles if the right hand would let it.
With your left hand, you guys are on your first couple of dates.
Right.
Yeah.
My left hand is gay. My right hand is just using me.
I am so glad I stopped masturbating.
Oh, you don't know what you're missing.
I know exactly, but it's
You
just
use a warmed up.
when I
watermelon
broke
in
up
the
with my
microwave.
wife,
That doesn't-
the first couple
count.
times I did it, I looked down at myself and I said, "This is disgusting. I hate myself. This is what I've come to." So I stopped.
It depends. Jerking off, if you do it to excess, yeah, it's a problem. Sex addiction. That's
So
a
every
problem.
hour is too much?
Huh?
Every hour is too much?
That's too much.
Yeah, I'm glad I
I'm
stopped
glad
when
you
I
could
did.
do it every hour. That's pretty
Because I
amazing.
didn't used to have glasses. The old saying, you'll be blind when
Right.
You
you
used
grow
to
up.
just do it in the middle of interviews.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
It's
too
like
much
the-
is too much. But every now and then, some people, there's the guilt coming in. There should be no
Right.
guilt about masturbating.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
Jewish part. We were
That's
raised on
global.
guilt.
That's not just Jewish. It's just the Jews analyzed it. That's all. They discovered the theory behind it.
Yeah.
Have you played with anybody famous who has a masturbation addiction?
I probably.
What do you mean
Or
by
just-
played with?
I will say yes, but I don't want to name any names.
Well, how about let's just say minus the masturbation. Who are some famous people you've had? The
I
pleasure of
recorded on the
meeting?
Japanese flute with Linkin Park
Oh, Get Out of Town with
on the Mitoria album. There's a song called "Nobody's Listening."
Really?
There's a shakuhachi on there. That's me.
Get Out of Town.
Yeah, I'm very famous in Cuba.
Wow.
They love Linkin Park in
See,
Cuba.
I'm glad Perry told me to ask that because Perry was telling me he's played with tons of
Yeah.
people and
Yeah,
and I'm all over the place on this interview.
that's
But
probably the biggest selling CD I've ever played on.
very cool. That's neat. I love me some Linkin Park. Chester Bennington and
Yeah.
and, the rest of the.
It was
You
a
get to
great
meet him?
session. The session was great.
I met Chester many, 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 many years ago. He was very nice.
They were going to sample it. They just wanted me to play it once, and then they would record it and sample it. And I just got to the studio because I can play, and I just played it in every place they wanted it. And the guy was standing there. He's playing it. You know, it was like they didn't expect me to do that, and it came out really nice.
Wow. Do you have any other instruments you could get and maybe play for our home audience?
I'd have to go into the main house.
You don't have to bust anything out. I love the bugle. He
All right.
went
Wasn't
ham.
that great?
He went oh man, I loved it. You could just tell he just want to play some jazz. Some
Yeah.
jazz. Some
Oh,
jazz
he's
stuff.
very jazzy. You
on
need
the-
to come
Wait,
over-
wait! I could do some vocal jazz.
Oh, yeah, he can sing too.
Well, let's do that to close out. We'll do that as the closer. We'll have you close out.
Ladies and gentlemen, please
We're not
welcome
closing.
the vocal stylings.
Wait a minute, I'll tell you. Let me tell you the story that goes
Okay,
along
here's
with
the
it.
story. Here's the setup.
Here's the setup. I got on the Gong Show, which you would appreciate,
Ooh.
and I did a jazz scat version of The Flight of the Bumblebee.
That's great.
Really?
You ready? Here it is. Gong!
Oh, my man, that was good though.
They gave me a consolation prize. I got a year's supply of cough drops.
Oh,
6 months later, they sent me another year's supply of cough drops. The show was in reruns. I was getting residuals.
the cough drops kept
Cough-
coming, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to me. Yeah, when I was on there, I got gonged,
Yeah.
but they gave me $100 there and sent me $350 like a month
Wow.
later.
That's great. You got gone good time. I got cough
You got
drops.
cough drops. Have you been on
Cough
other
drops.
shows?
Huh?
Have you been on a lot of other shows?
No. I
Competition.
did a lot of. I did music for some soap, Young and the Restless.
Ooh, nice.
I have some music on there, and then I was musical director for HBO Comedy Channel. I did 14 shows. I was musical director. We had such a hip little band, muted trumpet, bass, and drums, and we played the in and outs for the comics. I was a
Very
musical
nice.
director for that, and musical director for one Showtime special. That was
Wow.
a good gig. On camera musical director. It was very cool.
That's very.
And that's
very
years ago. Years and years ago.
That's when TV was still black and white.
That was before MTV. No, MTV had already happened. Yeah.
Wow.
Do you miss the woods now that you're in the back end of your?
Yeah, I do.
Sometimes it'd be
I
easier to
do.
just go back, wouldn't it?
Every now and then I catch myself looking at the moon and saying, David, don't forget where you come from.
That's right.
It's funny because I was about 25 when I spent my year in the woods
Oh, cool.
in Virginia, and it wasn't as extreme as hunting, having to hunt. But coming out of that, I was kind of a different person. Now, a
Yeah.
whole year in the woods by yourself makes you not crazy. It just kind of gives you a different kind of perspective on everything. So it's interesting to hear you come out of that, and then kind of work your way up, and then hit the penthouse and come down, and then work your way back up again, and
Yeah.
then, past 30 years just doing what you love.
I always knew when I was on the street I'd be able to get off. I didn't know how, but I had some kind of really deep faith in my talent that somehow I'd find my way off. But it's not easy.
It could still happen.
It's not easy, yeah. Yeah. If the negative thinking takes over, because that's all it is. Negative thinking got me there, and somehow I got off. The music helped get me off. Music is a lifesaver. So is comedy.
Oh, I know. Every Monday night I sit in with the band, and I'm out every night singing. And it's, as they say, music will set you free, and it's really
Yeah. Well,
true.
and comedy, too.
Music is magic for the soul. People
Yeah.
don't believe how much. I mean, you look at how much music is part of our lives, and there's a reason. It's an emotional response that it gets from us.
That's why it was always very hard for me to study theory, because I did not understand notes on paper. I would look at a note on a piece of paper. I mean, what the? And I read it. I could hear really well. I just love to blow. I just love playing.
Yeah.
So it's very, when I'm taking a solo now, it's always been really hard for me to count. Whenever I had my band playing, I would have my drummer tell me when to stop. Because it's hard to count while I'm playing.
You get involved.
Because I'm in that space. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I like
you don't
that
want to
space.
lose it. You got a hold of it.
I like that space. It's
Just ride it.
fun.
As
That's
for the
awesome.
woods, have you taken your daughter out there to where
Ooh,
there might be
great
live
question.
animals yet?
Oh yeah.
All
We
right.
did one weekend. In fact, the first weekend, my daughter spent away from her mom. We went out to the woods.
Whoa.
We had a cabin, We had
Okay.
nice, and she had a camera. It was the first time, and the first thing she did with the camera was take a picture of me peeing. It's just,
Great.
snapping.
Gotta love the kids.
She loves to show it around. It's hysterical. Thank God it was from the back. So you.
Yeah, I was going to say, did she use a telescopic lens?
No, but it
To
was.
zoom in.
But she constantly is saying how much she wants to go back to the mountains.
That's
Good.
awesome.
That's really important.
Especially with what it had in your life,
And I took her on her first hike was up to Mount Hollywood from Griffith Observatory, and I wound up carrying her 2/3 of the way. It took me a week to recover from that
Yes.
hike.
Oh. That's actually...
You can drive up there.
No,
I
you
have
can- not-
in back. Well, no, in back of the sign, you can drive right in back of it.
Yeah, but not to the top of Mount Hollywood.
No, but I
that's different.
took my daughter up there. I have a video of her dancing with the
great.
back of the sign and the
Right.
city in back of her popping around.
That's great.
But she loves that. When we lived in South Carolina, she was in absolute heaven. All the kids, because we were in a small rural
it's
town,
fascinating.
and the woods were in back of our house.
It's fascinating. For kids, the woods are just
Yeah.
fascinating.
It's a
And
whole brand new
the
world.
possibility of animals and wild animals. It's
And there's no
incredible.
structure out there. There isn't a
No.
government. There isn't a boss. It's
No.
literally you and nature and the
Yeah.
woods.
Well, kids don't have much sense of politics, except my daughter hates Donald. She knows that.
Good.
Well, it's happy news, boys. We got to remember that.
Speaking of happy news, do you have a third
That's
story?
the third, baby. We're about to close it off. My
Okay.
final question: do you have any concerns as an older parent, like just kind of with being in your kids' life? And this applies to you too, Perry. Just being an older father and having younger children. Nothing you can do about it, right? You roll through it regardless of what happens.
Right.
But the recovery time, playing with your kids, and
Nothing.
it's just
My
gonna go
daughter
the way
runs
it goes, right?
when I pick my daughter up at school. She runs towards me full speed and flings her body into my arms.
Yeah.
And I lift weights every day to make sure I can keep that happening.
Flex for the owner. Show him a muscle.
Huh?
Show him
He's not a whore. He's not a piece of meat.
This is funny. Up until recently, she would run towards me, "Daddy, daddy, daddy, daddy," and fling her body at me. And now she runs up to me, "Daddy, daddy, daddy, daddy," flings her body, says, "Do you have any money?"
3 years from now it'll be let me borrow the car,
Yep,
Dad. Or
they
6
don't-
years from now, or however many years, whenever kids.
They don't grow
nowadays.
out of that. I
I
remember
can't-
when my daughter was 5 and I went on the road for 2 weeks, and I came home, and she came up to here and she ran into me full speed, and hit me right there, and I literally flipped over her backwards and was laying on the floor, and she goes, "I'm sorry, did I break you?"
So last thoughts. I just any advice that you'd just like to give to some of our viewers as far as just
Life or
Any
music
advice?
or comedy?
Just keep laughing, man. Just
Forever.
stay away from negative thinking. Keep laughing. I can't take myself too seriously. Whenever I do, that's trouble. That is trouble. Stay positive. Stay not happy, not necessarily happy, but always appreciate the joy of the moment, the joy of spontaneity. The essence of Judaism is to be spontaneously joyful.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's huge. That's in the Torah. That's huge. Spontaneously joyful. That's
and then one thing that's made you happy in the past week.
huh?
One thing that's made you happy in the past week, and your wife and your daughter doesn't count.
The past week.
Being with you guys.
Hey,
Oh.
there it is. That's
Yeah.
what I like to
Being with you
hear.
guys. This is great.
Close us out, Perry.
All right, where can they reach you? Do you have a website?
I have a website, www.davidzasloff.com.
Could you spell that for them? Because they're not as smart as us.
DAVID, Z like in zebra, A like in apple, S like in Sam, LOFF like in funny. Cool.
And that's .com,
.com.
And where can they find you, Perry?
which I found out actually stands for communications. That's where it comes from.
Oh, nuh-uh. Really? Damn. Every
So that
time I
last
think
week-
you're not worth your salt, Perry, you show up with
Alright,
another
I
piece
know-
of knowledge
It
like
finally makes sense.
I know
Ah.
3 things, and I don't remember
that.
what
He
they
doesn't
are.
remember 2 of them.
What am I doing here?
Where can they find you, Perry?
On Monday nights, they can find me at the Park Bar in Burbank, and most other nights they can find me at the Oaks Tavern in Sherman Oaks, where I do karaoke. Otherwise, PerryKurtz.com. If you can't remember my name, PerryFunny.com. And, of course, watch for my Booking.com commercial, which is still running, and I'm still getting residuals on.
They're still sending them cough
They're
drops.
still sending me money, so I'm thrilled to death with that.
Where can they find the show, Perry?
You can find the show at The Binge on this channel. Also look up This, That, and the Other, and it will connect. And, of course, it will be on my YouTube page called Perry Kurtz. And we'll be posting it on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter and Tumblr and Blogger.
And you'll be back in 2 weeks.
And Jizzer and all those other great... Jizzer, it's a small site, but it's only every 20 minutes.
Awesome.
And we'll be back in a couple weeks with more. So stay in touch. Don't be afraid to drop us a line. If there's a place you can leave a comment, we'd love to hear what you have to say. I mean, we're doing this for you. Nobody here's getting any money. We're not getting any compensation.
Don't brag about that.
Okay.
Do you have a closing line yet, Perry?
No, I don't have a closing line.
Well, how about we have David play us out a little bit on his bugle?
We played it once.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. You can find us
He's
on
still
iTunes.
tired.
Wait.
Yeah,
There we
for
go.
me. All right, thank you guys for listening.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Da-da-da-da.
This is Perry Kurtz and Brian Tassara signing off. Happy Hours News is produced by Golden Eye Fools Productions. A binge on this production, baby. Yeah. Perfect. I couldn't have asked for a better interview.
Thank you, David. I knew you.